Krishna 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 Pahimam.
Krishna 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 Pahimam.
Hey Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama. Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama. Hey Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Pahimam. Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Pahimam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Shyama ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol. Ez a hanyadik? 31. Hare Krishna, everybody, and welcome to the 31st. Ide rakod, csak így, majd ezt látni, igen, csak, hát nem tudom, oda fel is lehetne rakni. Ezen átjön?
Igen.
Felés? Ez jó, csak emlékezzél, jó? Welcome to the 31st installment of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Travels.
Hare Krishna mindenkinek, Isten hozott titeket a Sri Caitanya utazásai sorozat 31. részénél.
Probléma az, hogy kell nekem valamit látni. Várjál, meg látod. Igen, Anuragi nincs itt. Yeah, I left. I have some information on the telephone I will need.
Szükség van a telefonra, mert van benne némi információ.
And we haven't had a session for 3 weeks now.
3 hete nem tartottunk ilyen leckét.
Well, maybe 4 weeks. We had Rath Yatra, so we weren't here then.
Volt Rátha Játra, úgyhogy akkor nem voltam itt.
And then afterwards we had 3 readings with His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj.
Utána 3-szor olvastunk Őszentsége Devamrita Swami Maharajjal.
So that Sunday I didn't continue.
Úgyhogy azonnal vasárnapon nem folytattam.
Then last week we had our búcsú.
Múlt héten volt a búcsú.
Our fair open house. And that was ecstatic, very blissful.
Az nagyon extatikus volt, nagyon
Although
örömteli.
On one day we had 43-degree weather.
Bár az egyik nap 43 fok volt,
So last week also we didn't have. Now we have this week, and we're going to be Caitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayāga.
úgyhogy akkor sem volt, és akkor most ma a Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Prajágban az lesz.
And next week will be Caitanya Mahaprabhu in Varanasi, and back to Jagannath Puri.
És utána a Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Varnásziban, aztán pedig visszaérünk Jagannath Puriba.
And then that's it for Lord Chaitanya's travels.
És akkor befejezzük az Úr Caitanya
So
utazásait.
then I'm going to think about what else we'll do our Sunday lectures on.
Utána akkor elgondolkodom, hogy miről szóljanak majd a vasárnapi leckéink.
I spent quite a long time on, Lord Chaitanya's travels. I don't know when we started, but it was a long time ago.
Elég sok időt töltöttünk az Úr Caitanya utazásaival, nem tudom mikor kezdtem, de már régen.
If anyone has any topics that can go on for a serial period of time, let us know.
Ha bárkinek van ötlete, amiről lehet ilyen úgy beszélni, hogy egy sorozat legyen belőle, akkor azt
Although
küldje
we're
el.
really heading into festival season,
Bár kezdődik a fesztivál szezon,
so that means that we're going to be coming up with next week I will definitely have a reading.
jövő héten biztos, hogy fogok olvasni.
The week after, probably not, because I will be having a retreat here in New Vrajadam.
Utána való héten valószínűleg nem, mert egy elvonulás lesz itt Új-Vrajadamban.
With our outreach people who are coming from our videos and so on.
Az outreach prédikálásból érkező embereknek, akik a videók
So
miatt jönnek.
Then the following week, if I know right, is going to be Janmashtami and Srila Prabhupada's appearance day.
Utána pedig Janmashtami lesz és Srila Prabhupád megjelenési napja.
Now after that, I won't be here. I'm going to Canada with Govinda Maharaj.
Utána nem leszek itt, elutazom Kanadába Govinda Maharajjal.
Then the following Sunday is Radhastami.
Utána Rádasztami lesz.
So that brings us somewhere into the first week of September.
A szeptember első hete.
Then we will be going to Romania.
Aztán Romániába utazom.
Radha Govinda Prabhu will be giving his first initiation there.
Ráda Govinda Prabhu először fog avatást adni.
And then after that we're going to Turkey.
És utána Törökországba megyünk.
And that brings us to the third week of September.
És akkor már szeptember 3. hete lesz.
So there's going to be a long period where we're not online.
Szóval hosszú idő lesz, amíg nem leszünk online.
And then sometime after September we'll start.
És szeptember után majd elkezdjük.
And then there's Govardhan Puja.
Aztán ott lesz a Govardhan Puja.
And once we're getting into October, then I'm sort of headed off to hopefully the UK for a week and then to India.
És aztán utána októberben pedig remélhetőleg elmegyek Angliába egy hétre, és aztán Indiába.
So I can't continue in India, but I don't know if there's any point in doing it live because, for instance, 8 o'clock in India we're going to be getting into 4.5 hours difference here, so that will be like 12:30 p.m. It'll be lunchtime.
Lehet, tehát folytathatnám Indiában, de nem hiszem, hogy van értelme élőben csinálni, mert akkor már 4,5 óra lesz az időeltolódás, és ami ott 8 óra lesz, az itt már ebédidő 12:30.
And I'm not sure who maybe Shambhi Hari may end up being the translator.
És aztán lehet, hogy akkor Shambhi Hari Prabhu lesz a tolmács.
Very eloquent person.
Nagyon ékes szóló személy.
Why is everybody laughing?
Miért nevet mindenki?
So, anyway, we're around. Just want to let you know.
Hát, de majd akkor
But
elmondjuk, hogy
podcasts will be continuing.
de a podcastok folytatódnak.
So, so now I need my telephone.
És most szükségem van a
Just
telefonomra.
a quick report on Nitya Seva.
Egy gyors beszámoló a Nitya Széváról.
We had one anonymous person who paid in full.
Volt egy anonimus, aki teljesen fizetett egy teljes Nitya Szévát,
And let's see. Yeah. Okay, so that person's anonymous, paid in full. Then Bhakta Adrian in Romania started a full payment. Füstös Zolt, another full payment.
Bhakta Adrian és Füstös Zoltán,
And,
ők is kezdtek egy teljes befizetést.
Sharnagati Dam and her husband,
És,
now whose name I forget, they also they completed their payment.
és Saranagati Dám és a férje befejezték a Nitya Széva befizetésüket.
So yes, please consider these upcoming festival times is a good time to really help us in terms of moving forward Radha Sundar's Nitya Seva.
Fontoljátok meg, hogy ezek az elkövetkező fesztiválok egy jó alkalom arra, hogy előre haladjunk Radha Sundar Nitya Szévájával.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's going. It's going. Okay, now here we go back to Caitanya Charitamrita.
Most visszatérünk a Caitanya Charitamritához.
The nectar that beats all nectars.
Az a nektár, ami minden más nektárnál felsőbbrendű. So if you have any topics, let us know, and then we'll see. Ha vannak témáitok, akkor szóljatok, és akkor meglátjuk.
So, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived in Prayāga.
Caitanya Mahaprabhu megérkezett Prajágba.
And a Brahman had invited him to take lunch.
És egy brámana meghívta ebédelni.
And Rūpa Gosvāmī and Anupam, his younger brother, were also in attendance.
És Rūpa Gosvāmī és az öccse Anupam is jelen voltak.
Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu selected his residence beside the confluence of the Ganges and Jamuna at a place called Triveni. The two brothers, Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sri Vallabh, selected their residence near the Lords. By the way, if you want to know where we're reading, this is Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 60.
A Madhya Lila 19. fejezetének 60. versétől olvasunk.
One thing is that in sort of reading ahead, I realized that I don't really understand how these confluence takes place.
Ahogy előre olvastam, rájöttem, hogy nem igazán értem, hogy van ez az összefolyás.
We'll be reading about these crossings of these rivers, and I'm not quite sure how that actually takes place.
Ugye olvasunk arról, hogy átkelt ezeken a folyókon, de nem igazán értem, hogy ez hogy történik.
I mean, how it takes place geographically.
Hogy földrajzi szempontból hogy történik.
And the reason I don't understand is because, well, I didn't look even at the map to see.
És az oka, amiért nem értem, az az, hogy nem néztem meg a térképet sem.
At that time, Sri Vallabhata was staying at Adailagaram, and when he heard that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived, he went to his place to see him. This Vallabhabhata is who's known as Vallabhacharya.
Ez a Vallabhabhata az, akit Vallabhácsáryaként ismernek.
Prabhupada gives a lengthy purport.
Prabhupád hosszú magyarázatot ad.
And giving 3 histories of Vallabhacharya's life.
És elmondja Vallabhácsárya életének a 3 történetét.
So it's quite interesting that there's so many conflicting ideas about who were his parents, where he was born.
Érdekes, hogy rengeteg ellentmondásos történet van, hogy kik voltak a szülei, hogy hol született.
Although it seems like the birthday was considered to be the same.
Bár úgy tűnik, hogy a születésnapját ugyanarra a dátumra helyezik.
And Vallabhacharya plays a role in Caitanya Charitamrita.
És Vallabhácsárjának van szerepe a Caitanya Charitamritában.
This was the first meeting.
Ez volt az első találkozás.
First meeting with Lord Caitanya.
Az első találkozás az Úr Caitanyával.
And there will be another one later on in the Antya-lila.
És aztán lesz egy másik később az Antya-lilában.
He was a contemporary of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Gosvāmī's.
Ő Caitanya Mahaprabhunak és a Gosvāmiknak a kortársa volt.
He's often referred to here as a very learned brahmana.
Gyakran utalnak rá itt úgy, mint egy nagyon tanult brahmana.
And of course a Vaishnava.
És persze egy Vaishnava.
Not quite a Gaudiya Vaishnava.
Nem igazán Gaudiya Vaishnava.
But Srila Prabhupada points out that he joined the Vishnu-Swami Sampradaya and then became the Acharya there of what we now know as the Vallabhacharya sect.
De Srila Prabhupád kiemeli, hogy a Vishnu-Swami Sampradájához csatlakozott, ahol ő lett az ácsárja, és akkor ma azt a Vallabhácsárya vonalként ismerik.
And when you go around to the other side of Govardhan, you go to Yatipur village.
És hogyha Govardhan túloldalán elmentek a Yatipur faluba,
that is one of their headquarters.
Az az egyik fő hadiszállásuk.
Vallabhabhatacharya offered Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu his obeisances and the Lord embraced him. After that, they discussed topics about Krishna for some time. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu felt great ecstatic love when they began discussing Krishna, but the Lord checked his feelings because he felt shy before Vallabhabhata. This is a phenomena that comes up, is that Lord Chaitanya's restrained in Vallabhabhatacharya's presence.
Ez egy jelenség, ami így előkerül, hogy Vallabhabhata jelenlétében visszafogta magát az Úr Caitanya.
Not completely comfortable with him.
Nem érezte teljesen kényelmesen magát vele.
Although the Lord restrained himself externally, ecstatic love raged within. There was no checking that. Vallabhabhata was astonished to detect this. Now he must have been an advanced devotee. Can you detect if someone is experiencing ecstatic symptoms within, but externally they, remain restrained.
Biztosan fejlett bakta volt, mert ti fel tudjátok ismerni, hogyha valakiben belül ott van az extatikus szeretet, de kívülről visszafogja magát?
How would you know?
Honnan tudod?
One thing was sort of the movements of the eyes,
Az egyik a szemnek a mozgása,
sort of restless movement of the eyes,
hogy nyughatatlanul mozognak a szemek,
and perhaps the voice and expression,
és talán a hang, meg a kifejezésmód,
and someone's a little restless, sort of moving around in their seat because they're sitting.
És hogy valaki egy kicsit olyan nyughatatlan, és mozgolódik az ülésén, mert most itt ülnek,
And other such symptoms.
és aztán lehetnek más jelei.
Yes, if it's sort of an interesting question.
Ez egy érdekes kérdés.
If a devotee in the middle of the kirtan here falls down in ecstasy
Hogyha valaki itt a kirtan közepén összeesik az extázisában,
and faints,
és elájul,
what are you going to do?
mit fogsz csinálni?
Can you recognize it?
Felismered?
Or you call the doctors, ambulance comes,
Vagy fölhívod az orvosokat, és jön a mentő,
they take him off to a hospital,
elviszik a kórházba,
do brain surgery on him,
egy agyműtétet csinálnak
and Lord
rajta,
knows what they're going to do.
és az Isten tudja, mit fognak csinálni.
So that's why it's better to be restrained.
Ezért jobb, ha visszafogja magát az ember.
You may end up under the scalpel.
Lehet, hogy a műtőben találod magad.
Thereafter, Vallabhabhata invited Caitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch, and the Lord introduced the brothers Rūpa and Vallabha to him. From a distance, the brothers Rūpa and Sri Vallabha fell on the ground and offered obeisances to Vallabhabhata with great humility. When Vallabhabhatacharya walked towards them, they ran away to a more distant place. Rūpa Gosvāmī said, "I'm untouchable and most sinful. Please do not touch me." Because they had been working for the Nawab, and so they'd really fallen from their Brahminical caste.
Mivel a Nawabnak dolgoztak, elestek a brahminikus kasztjuktól.
Now we're getting into Caitanya Mahaprabhu testing Vallabhabhata.
És most egyre belekerülünk abba, amikor Caitanya Mahaprabhu próbára teszi Vallabhabhatát.
He wants to know if his pride in being a aristocratic Brahmin, if he really thinks that people are high or low based on their birth or other social status.
Tudni akarja, hogy az alapján, hogy ő egy arisztokratikus brahmana családban született, de hogy igazából mennyire érdekli az embereknek a születése és más társadalmi státusza.
Do these things really determine someone's spiritual advancement?
Meghatározzák ezek a dolgok valakinek a lelki fejlettségét.
And then he passes the test.
És átmegy ezen a próbatételen.
But that's something to always be aware of.
Erről tudatosnak kell lennünk.
Is that Krishna or a spiritual master or senior Vaishnavas maybe sometimes testing devotees.
Hogy Krishna, a lelki tanítómester vagy idősebb vaisnavák lehet, hogy néha próbára teszik a baktákat.
Just in the course of the day, in the course of a conversation.
Lehet, hogy csak napközben vagy egy beszélgetés során.
In other words, they don't give you a warning. Okay, now I'm going to test you.
Nem figyelmeztetnek, hogy most próbára foglak tenni.
But they want to know, well, how does this person actually conduct themselves? How much does he know about Krishna consciousness?
De tudni akarják, hogy fog viselkedni ez a személy, és mennyit tud a Krishna tudatról.
So Vallabhabhatacharya was very surprised at this. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased, and he therefore spoke to him this description of Rūpa Gosvāmī, So he was, Rūpa Gosvāmī kept a distance from him. So Lord Caitanya was pleased by that, and Ballabha was very astonished.
Rūpa Gosvāmī távolságot tartott, ezzel az Úr Caitanya nagyon elégedett volt, Vallabha meg megdöbbent.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Don't touch him, for he belongs to a very low caste. You are a follower of Vedic principles and are well experienced performer of many sacrifices, and you also belong to aristocracy." So Lord Chaitanya said, "No, don't touch him. He's not qualified."
Az Úr Caitanya mondta neki, hogy ne érj hozzá, nem képesített.
Hearing the holy name constantly vibrated by the two brothers, Ballabha Bhattacharya could understand the hints of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ballabha admitted, "Since these two are constantly chanting the holy name of Krishna, how can they be untouchable? On the contrary, they are most exalted." So Ballabha passed the test.
Vallabha átment ezen a próbatételen.
He didn't evaluate Rupa and Ballabha on the basis of their social standing, but on the basis of that they were chanting Hare Krishna.
Nem a társadalmi helyzetük alapján ítélte meg Rúpát és Vallabhát, hanem azon az alapon, hogy a Hare Krishnát énekelték.
Now, in one of the purports, Prabhupada says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is for text 69, but it's not long. You can just repeat it. It's the 69 in the purport. It's 1, 2, 3. It's the fourth paragraph. The fourth sentence, excuse me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually started a revolution against this Brahminical system.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a brahminikus rendszer ellen egy forradalmat kezdett el.
By inaugurating the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra.
Azzal, hogy bevezette a Hare Krishna mantra éneklését.
By this chanting, one can be delivered regardless of caste, creed, color, or social position.
Ezzel az énekléssel kasztjára, felekezetére, bőrszínére vagy társadalmi helyzetére való tekintet nélkül bárki felszabadulhat.
The Vedic literature is a very systematic progression of spiritual guidance.
A védikus irodalom az a lelki iránymutatásnak egy szisztematikus fejlődése.
And it also takes into consideration the benefits of higher material activities over lower material activities.
És figyelembe veszi a magasabb rendű anyagi tevékenységek előnyét az alacsonyabb rendűekkel szemben.
Or higher material qualifications over lower material qualifications.
Vagy a magasabb rendű anyagi képesítettséget az alacsonyabb rendűvel szemben.
So, to people in the mode of ignorance, it recommends activities in the mode of passion.
Szóval azoknak, akik a tudatlanság kötelrejében vannak, a szenvedély tetteit ajánlja.
And to people in the mode of passion, it recommends activities in the mode of goodness.
A szenvedélyben lévőknek a jóság tetteit ajánlja.
And it's a text that assumes that people will advance spiritually over many, many lifetimes.
És ezek olyan írások, amik úgy gondolják, hogy az emberek hosszú életeken keresztül fognak fejlődni.
Now the Bhagavatam begins by the teaching that this doesn't work anymore.
A Bhagavatam azzal a tanítással kezdődik, hogy ez többé már nem működik.
In that lila, in that pastime between Narad and Vyasadeva.
Abban a lilában, kettelésben Náradával és Vyasadevval.
Vyasadeva was very frustrated because he had written the Mahabharata and he didn't find satisfaction in doing that.
Vyasadeva azért volt elkeseredve, mert megírta a Mahabharatot, de nem volt elégedett ettől.
So he didn't really think that by writing this book I achieved my purpose of bringing people to Krishna consciousness.
Szóval nem igazán gondolta úgy, hogy azzal, hogy megírta ezt a könyvet, elérte azt a célját, hogy a Krisna tudatba hozza az embereket.
Even though the Bhagavad Gita was embedded in the Mahabharata,
Annak ellenére, hogy a Bhagavad Gita be van ágyazva a Mahabharatba,
and the whole idea of the Mahabharata is that Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, is that everyone surrendered to Krishna.
és az egész Mahabharatnak az az elgondolása, hogy mindenki hódoljon meg Krisnának.
But, you know, in a book of 100,000 verses, it's very easy to lose the context when you have to take note of, well, even the 700 verses of the Gita.
De egy 100 000 versből álló könyvben elég könnyen el lehet véteni még azt a 700 verset is, amiből a Gita áll.
Or just a few very explicit verses of the Gita.
Vagy pedig a Gítának egy pár nagyon kifejezett
Manmana Bhava
versét.
Bhakto Madhyajinam Namaskuru and so on.
Ezeket a verseket.
So Narada said, Parashara Mahabaho, but why you've just misled people.
És azért Nárada azt mondja, hogy hát te csak félrevezetted az embereket.
So this sort of gradual process Narada called misleading.
Szóval ezt a fokozatos folyamatot, ezt Nárada félrevezetésnek nevezte.
He says people will just become bewildered.
Az emberek csak összezavarodnak.
And he says, because you've forgotten to glorify Krishna's name, form and pastimes.
Mert elfelejtetted dicsőíteni Krishna nevét, formáját, tulajdonságait és
So
ketteléseit.
that's all you have to do.
Igazából csak ezt kell tenned.
After all, there in Mahabharata, Bande Purushethe Charanarvindam. So you've already made reference to Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
Végül is ott van a Mahabharatban, utaltál Caitanya Mahaprabhura.
Chaktva Sudushya Tishtita Raja Lakshmin Dharmishta Aryam. So it's a waste of time. It's misleading people.
Idővesztegetés félrevezeti az embereket.
So that's why Srila Prabhupada is just straight off the bat, chant Hare Krishna.
Ezért Srila Prabhupád csak rögtön azt mondta, énekeld a Hare Krishnát.
This is sadhana and sadhya. This is the process and it's the perfection.
Ez a folyamat és ez a tökéletesség.
And that was Lord Chaitanya's teachings.
És ez volt az Úr Caitanya
So this is
tanítása.
quite revolutionary. Here Prabhupada says Lord Chaitanya began a revolution.
Ez elég forradalmi, és Srila Prabhupád itt azt mondja, hogy az Úr Caitanya egy forradalmat kezdett.
Revolution against this Brahminical system.
Egy forradalmat a brahminikus rendszerrel szemben.
And even today, people in India, because that's where the Brahminical system exists, have difficulty with the Krishna conscious process.
És az embereknek Indiában még manapság is nehézséget okoz a Krishna tudatos folyamat.
So when you say this is the only way,
És amikor azt mondod, hogy ez az egyetlen út,
of course we don't say it, Shastra says it.
persze nem mi mondjuk, hanem a sásztra.
Kalo nastiva, nastiva, nastiva. Shastra says it's the only way.
A sásztra azt mondja, ez az egyetlen út.
So then they get very offended.
Akkor megsértődnek.
But it's a fact. Without chanting Hare Krishna and without accepting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to be very qualified to get anywhere.
De ez tény, anélkül, hogy énekelnéd a Hare Krishnát, és elfogadnád Chaitanya Mahaprabhut, nem fogsz jutni sehova.
And of course the real fact is that Rūpa, Sanatan, Anupam, they were actually from a very high class aristocratic Brahminical family themselves.
És valójában az a tény, hogy Rúpa, Sanatan és Anupan, ők maguk is egy nagyon magas arisztokratikus családból származtak.
But here, Balabhabhata, he's quoting verses in support of his conclusion.
De itt Vallabhabhata verseket idéz a saját végkövetkeztetésével kapcsolatban.
He's quoting verses that, anyway, devotees who preach, especially if you're going to preach to Indian people, then they should know.
Olyan verseket idéz, amiket a prédikátoroknak, főleg ha indiaiaknak prédikálnak, akkor ismerniük kell.
So this is Devahuti, a very famous verse.
Ez Devahutitól egy nagyon híres vers.
Ahobata sva pachato gariyan yajivati vartate namatubhyam te pustapaste juhuvusashnurarya brahmanachur nama grinanti jete. Who knows the verse? 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. So, Hare Krishna. You should be learning verses.
Tanuljátok meg a verseket.
The translation. Balabhabata then recited the following verse, My dear Lord, one who always keeps your holy name on his tongue becomes greater than an initiated Brahmin. Although he may be born in the family of a dog-eater and may therefore be material calculation, and therefore by material calculation be the lowest among men, he is still glorious. This is the wonderful effect of chanting the holy name of the Lord. It is therefore concluded that one who chants the holy name of the Lord should be understood to have performed all kinds of austerities and great sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. He has already taken his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. He has studied all the Vedas, and he is actually an Aryan. Just a point on this verse.
Csak egy pont ezzel a verssel kapcsolatban.
Sometimes devotees misunderstand what this says.
Néha a bakták félreértik, hogy ez mit mond.
Well, I'm chanting Hare Krishna.
Én éneklem a Hare Krisnát.
That means in a previous life I did every different type of sacrifice.
És ez azt jelenti, hogy egy előző életemben
I
mindenféle
studied all
áldozatot
the
elvégeztem,
Vedas.
Tanulmányoztam az
I
összes
bathed
Védát,
in all the holy places.
megfürödtem minden szent helyen.
So that's not what it means.
De nem ezt jelenti.
It means the purpose of all of these things is to chant Hare Krishna.
Hanem azt jelenti, hogy mindezeknek a dolgoknak a célja a Hare Krishna éneklése.
So if you're already chanting Hare Krishna, then that means that you're as good as having performed these things.
Azt jelenti, hogy ha énekled a Hare Krishnát, akkor olyan jó vagy, mintha mindezt elvégezted
So it
volna.
doesn't mean that we actually did them.
Nem azt jelenti, hogy igazából megtettük.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to hear Vallabhabhata quoting from Shastra about the position of a devotee. The Lord praised him personally, and feeling ecstatic love of Godhead, began to quote many verses from Shastra. Now Lord Chaitanya is quoting Shastra.
Most az Úr Caitanya idézi a sásztrát.
2 verses, I don't know one of them here. Suchi sad bhakti diptagni dagdadurjati kalmasha supakopi buddhai shlagona vedagyopi nastika. Anyone know this? I don't think so. It's Hari Bhakti Shuddhaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, a person who has the pure characteristics of a Brahmin due to devotional service, which is like a blazing fire burning to ashes all the sinful reactions of past life, is certainly saved from the consequences of sinful acts, such as taking birth in the lower family. Even though he may be born in the family of a dog-eater, he is considered by learned scholars. However, he is recognized by learned scholars. However, although a person may be a learned scholar in Vedic knowledge, he is not recognized if he is an atheist. Another misunderstanding is that devotees think that a devotee who chants Hare Krishna is as good as a Brahmin. Therefore, I'm already a Brahmin.
Van egy másik félreértés, amit a bakták gondolni szoktak, hogy valaki, aki énekli a Hare Krishnát, az olyan jó, mint egy brahmana, úgyhogy én már brahmana vagyok.
So once again, the purpose of Brahminical life is to bring someone to the stage of devotional service.
Ismét a brahminikus életnek a célja, hogy elvigye az embert az odaadó szolgálatig.
So that means that you're as good as a Brahmin
Szóval ez azt jelenti, hogy olyan jó vagy, mint egy brahmana,
But that doesn't necessarily mean you have all the qualifications of a Brahmin.
de ez nem feltétlenül jelenti, hogy egy brahmana minden képesítésével rendelkezel.
The main principle always stands.
A fő elv mindig áll,
Yatraya lakshanam proktam. You judge a thing by its qualities,
hogy a dolgokat a tulajdonságaik alapján ítéljük meg,
characteristics.
jellemzőik
So if you
alapján.
don't have the qualities of a Brahmin, then you're not a Brahmin.
Szóval, ha nem rendelkezel egy brahmana tulajdonságaival, akkor nem vagy brahmana.
Samodamastapasocham shanti rajavamevacha. So how can you tell whether someone's a Brahmin or not?
Honnan tudod, hogy valaki brahmana vagy nem?
See what condition their bed is in.
Nézzétek meg, milyen állapotban van az ágyuk.
It's very simple.
Nagyon egyszerű.
So if devotee gets up and he doesn't make his bed, put everything away, keep everything in order, he's not a Brahmin.
Hogyha egy bakta felkel, és nem ágyaz be, és rendezi el az ágyát, akkor nem egy brahmana.
There are, of course, other things that we have to do, but
Persze vannak más dolgok is.
so, and consider that even in the material world, karmis teach their children to make your bed.
És figyeljetek arra, hogy még az anyagi világban is az emberek megtanítják a gyerekeiket beágyazni.
In the army, it's one of the first things they check. Who's been in the army?
Ki volt katona?
Isn't it?
Ez
Make
az
your
első
bed.
dolog, amit leellenőriznek, ugye?
You can't have a wrinkle in your bed.
Egy ránc sem lehet az ágyadon.
What do they do if you have a wrinkle in your
Mit
bed?
csinálnak, hogyha ránc van az ágyadon?
Huh? What's the
Megbüntetnek.
punishment?
Mi a büntetés?
Stand at the border?
Border of the, there are special places which you have to protect.
Oh.
Like a watchtower.
Additionally,
You have to do additional work, service.
Szóval extra munkát kell csinálni
Guard
az
work.
őrtoronyban, vagy ilyesmi.
Nighttime.
Éjszaka?
So just for a wrinkle.
Egy ráncért.
If they're not Brahmins,
Ők nem brahmanek,
they're just soldiers, but at least
Csak
they have
katonák.
this, at least they make their bed.
de legalább beágyaznak.
Then here's the other verse. Some
Következő
devotees
vers.
should know this. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japas Tapa Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. Who knows that verse? One. Hare Krishna. For a person, it's clear we got few Brahmins around here.
Elég világos, hogy csak néhány brahmana van itt.
Why? Because Brahmins like to study.
Mert a brahmanek szeretnek tanulni.
You don't have to make them study.
Nem kell őket rávenni, hogy
In
tanuljanak.
fact, you have to shake them off their books.
Így le kell őket vakarni a könyvükről.
So they study naturally, they memorize verses naturally, and so on.
Természetes módon tanulnak és memorizálják a verseket.
For a person devoid of devotional service, birth in a great family or nation, knowledge of revealed scripture, performance of austerities and penance, and chanting of Vedic mantras are like ornaments on a dead body. Such ornaments simply serve the concocted pleasures of the general populace. So Prabhupada often quotes this verse.
Prabhupád gyakran idézi ezt a verset.
Says, dead body.
Mint egy halott test.
Now, what's the use of decorating a dead body? It's
Mi
still
haszna
dead.
van egy halott testet feldíszíteni?
When he saw the Lord's ecstatic love, Ballabha Bhattacharya was certainly very astonished. He was also astonished by the Lord's knowledge of the essence of devotional service, as well as by his personal beauty and influence. Ballabha Bhatta then put Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates aboard a boat and took them to his own place to offer them lunch. Who knows what happens next?
Ki tudja, mi történik ezután?
Nobody. No one knows what happens next. While crossing the river Yamuna, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, here is the confluence of the Jamuna and Ganges.
Itt folyik össze a Ganges és a Yamuna.
I'm just looking at which, the Jamuna is here and the Ganges is here.
A Yamuna bal oldalon, a Ganges a másik oldalon.
And the Saraswati River is coming up from underground.
És a Sarasvati folyó a föld alól érkezik.
This one is blackish, this one is golden, Saraswati is red.
Ez feketés, az aranyszínű, és a Sarasvati piros.
And so they mixed at the confluence.
És összekeverednek az összefolyásnál.
So now Lord Chaitanya is going across the Jamuna part.
És most átmennek a Yamuna oldalára.
So he was near the confluence and he's going across the Jamuna part.
Szóval ott volt közel
I'll explain why I get confused.
Egybe folynak, és aztán átmennek a Yamunához, és elmagyarázom majd, hogy miért vagyok összezavarva.
While crossing the river Jamuna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the glossy black water and was immediately bewildered by ecstatic love. Indeed, as soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the river Jamuna, he immediately made a great sound and jumped into the water. Everyone was filled with fear and trembled to see this. So Lord Chaitanya has done this on occasion, jumping into the Jamuna.
Úr Caitanya alkalmanként csinált ilyet, hogy beugrott a Yamunába.
The water itself brings back many memories of Krishna's pastimes.
És maga a víz az sok emléket hoz fel az Úr Krishna ketteléseiről.
And the blackness also reminds me of Krishna.
És a feketeség is Krishnára emlékezteti.
So jumped in.
Szóval beleugrott.
Off the boat, he jumped into the water. You didn't know that this was coming up.
Nem tudtátok, hogy ez lesz, hogy a csónakról beleugrik?
And no one's read up to here? Who's read this?
Ki olvasta el?
Okay, well then you knew what was coming up, you just forgot. They all hastily grabbed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and pulled him out of the water. Once on the boat's platform, the Lord began to dance. Due to the Lord's heavy weight, the boat began to tilt. It began filling up with water and was on the verge of sinking. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I remember once when we were on Pariyatra, Navadvip Parikrama.
Egyszer Navadvip Parikrámon voltunk.
And we had this very, very ecstatic kirtan.
És volt ez a nagyon extatikus kirtan.
And we were coming, I don't know why we were coming like that, but we were coming from Godruma all the way up to Rudradvip.
És nem tudom, hogy miért mentünk így, de Godrumából mentünk egész Rudradvipig.
That's not usually the way the circuit goes.
Általában nem így megy a parikrám.
And we got in the boat and we continued the kirtan in the boat.
És beszálltunk a csónakba, és folytattuk a kirtant.
And I was dancing in the boat.
És táncoltam a csónakban.
But I was dancing on the seat.
De az ülésen táncoltam.
And the seat broke and I went right through the seat.
És eltört az ülés, és leestem.
The boatman wasn't very happy about that.
De a révész nem volt túl boldog.
Anyway, we didn't. And then we sort of sat down, keep it a little more, so the boat didn't tip over.
És akkor leültünk, és egy kicsit visszafogtuk magunkat, hogy nehogy felboruljon a csónak.
Sri Chaitanya would try to restrain himself as far as possible before Balabhadra. But although he tried to keep calm, his ecstatic love could not be checked. Seeing the circumstances, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally became calm so that the boat was able to reach the shore of Adaila and land there. So they went over to Vallabhacharya's place.
Szóval átmentek Vallabhacharya lakhelyére.
Fearing for the Lord's welfare, Vallabhacharya stayed in his association. After arranging for the Lord's bath, he took him to his own house. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at his home, Vallabhacharya, being greatly pleased, offered the Lord a nice sitting place and personally washed his feet. Now, once again, we hear something we've been hearing repeatedly before.
Itt újra olyasmit hallunk, amit újra már ismételten hallottunk azelőtt.
how did devotees receive Caitanya Mahaprabhu?
Hogyan fogadták a bakták Caitanya Mahaprabhut?
Or how do you receive a sannyasi, a brahman, a Vaishnava in your house?
Vagy hogyan fogadsz egy szanyászit, brahmanát vagy vaisnavát a házadban?
Now, because he keeps repeating it, it must mean that, it was important for Kaviraj Gosvāmī, so it's also important for us.
Az, hogy újra és újra meg van ismételve, az azt jelenti, hogy Kaviraj Gosvāmī számára fontos volt, ami azt jelenti, hogy nekünk is fontos.
Give a sitting place.
Adott neki egy ülőhelyet.
Wash his feet.
Megmosta a lábát.
Ballabha Bhattacharya and his whole family then sprinkled that water over their heads, and then they offered the Lord new underwear and outer garments. So they sprinkled the water, and then they offered cloth to Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
A fejükre szórták a vizet, és ruhát ajánlottak fel Caitanya Mahaprabhunak.
This offering cloth, offering chadar is very, very traditional.
A ruhák és a csadar felajánlása nagyon hagyományos, nagyon tradicionális.
Once in India, I was at this program of this very famous, one of the Sankaracharyas. There are four Sankaracharyas, and this was one of them.
Van 4 Sankaracharya, és az egyiknek a házában egy nagyon híres volt, az ő házában volt egy program.
No, it wasn't in his house. This was a big pandal outside.
Egy nagy sátorban volt. Igen.
And then he spoke very nice, then because I could more or less understand what he was saying.
Tehát nagyon szépen beszélt, többé-kevésbé értettem, amit mondott.
Wasn't speaking Mayavad philosophy.
Nem Mayavad filozófiáról beszélt.
And then I spoke.
És aztán én is beszéltem.
But the fact that I was there, everybody and all the people who came up, to offer him respect, they were all bringing chadars.
És mindenki, aki följött, az csadarokat vitt neki.
And he had someone here, and he was just giving the chadars. I don't know what he does with all of them.
És állt valaki mögötte, akinek csak az volt a dolga, hogy elvegye tőle a csadarokat, nem tudom, mit csinál vele.
Must have received 50 chadars.
Szerintem legalább 50 csadart kapott.
Anyway, but then when it was time to go, we said our goodbyes, and then he came and he gave me a chadar.
És amikor elköszöntünk,
He had a lot of them.
akkor jött és adott nekem egy csadart, hát elég sok volt neki.
Vallabhacharya worshipped the Lord with great pomp, offering scents, incense, flowers, and lamps. And with great respect he induced Ballabhacharya, the Lord's cook, to cook. So he did arti.
Áratit
He
mutatott
did
be
arti to Lord Caitanya.
az Úr Caitanyának.
And it's interesting thing that you invite someone for lunch and you have their cook lunch.
És ez érdekes, hogy meghívsz valakit ebédelni, és az ő szakácsuk főz.
This happens on other occasions as well.
Ez többször történik.
So, because he's already a Brahmin, so the cooking is already quality.
Ő már brahmana, tehát biztos, hogy a főzés az minőségi.
So, I don't know why ask Balabhadra Bhattacharya to cook.
Szóval nem tudom, hogy miért kérte meg Balabhadra Bhattacharját, hogy ő főzzön.
He knew Caitanya Mahaprabhu's diet.
Ő ismerte az Úr Caitanya étrendjét.
He cooked the way Lord Caitanya liked people to cook.
Úgy főzött, ahogy az Úr Caitanya szerette.
Usually when you invite someone for lunch, one of the aspects is that you're cooking for them.
Általában, ha meghívsz valakit ebédelni, akkor az az egyik aspektusa a dolognak, hogy főzöl neki.
Either the husband also cooks, but at least the wife gets the opportunity to do service. The ladies of the house, they're all cooking.
Lehet, hogy a férj is főz, de legalábbis a feleségnek van lehetősége szolgálatot ajánlani, és a család nő tagjai mind főznek.
Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was offered lunch with great care and affection. The brothers Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sri Vallabha were also offered food. And I'm quite sure it didn't take very long.
Biztos vagyok benne, hogy nem tartott sokáig.
So they must have been able to cook really fast.
Biztos, hogy gyorsan tudtak főzni.
Rice, vegetables.
rizs és zöldségek.
Vallabha Bhattacharya first offered the remnants of the Lord's food to Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and then to Krishnadas. The Lord was then given spices to purify his mouth. Afterwards he was made to rest, and Vallabha Bhattacharya personally massaged his legs. This is part of the reception. When Vallabha Bhatta was massaging him, the Lord asked him to go take prasad. After taking prasad, he returned to the lotus feet of the Lord. Generally speaking, a host will not eat with the guest.
Általában a vendéglátó nem eszik együtt a vendégekkel,
Unless the guest insists on it.
ha csak a vendég nem ragaszkodik hozzá.
He serves.
Ő szolgálja fel.
That's his responsibility.
Az az ő felelőssége.
At that time there arrived Raghupati Upadhyaya, who belonged to the Tiruhita district. He was a very learned scholar, a great devotee, and a respectable gentleman. So, Pandita Vaishnava Mahashaya. He was Pandita Bada Vaishnava Mahashaya. So all these three things
Szóval mindez a három dolog volt.
make someone that we see Lord Caitanya really appreciated him.
És látjuk, hogy az Úr Caitanya nagyon értékelte őt.
He was learned,
Tanult volt,
he was a Vaishnava,
egy vaisnava volt,
he had lots of bhakti,
sok baktia volt,
and he was well behaved.
és szépen viselkedett.
So this good behavior is something that's practically speaking lost in the world today.
Ez a jó viselkedés, ez gyakorlatilag elveszett a mai világban.
Although it's really part of, well, for us, Brahminical culture.
Annak ellenére, hogy számunkra ez a brahminikus kultúra része,
How devotees behave with each other and others.
hogyan viselkednek a bakták magukkal és másokkal.
What does it mean? How do you? Because Arjuna asked, "Kim tadvado kim adhyata kim purusha?" He says, how does he walk? How does he speak? What is his language? So Arjuna's asking all these questions of a self-realized soul.
Arjuna felteszi mindezeket a kérdéseket, hogy hogyan megy, hogyan ül és hogyan jár, hogyan viselkedik.
But they're really quite external.
Egy önmegvalósított lélek, de ezek eléggé külsődleges dolgok.
So there are really tons of examples. For me, it's I can't say that I know everything about being a gentleman and that I'm a gentleman.
Rengeteg példa van. Én nem mondhatom azt, hogy mindent tudok arról, hogy milyen úriembernek lenni, vagy hogy én úriember lennék.
But certainly that, and then they have what's called gentile behavior.
És aztán van az a fajta viselkedés, egy úriembernek a viselkedése.
So the gentle behavior, the real behavior, what it takes to make a gentleman or a lady.
Szóval, hogy mitől lesz valaki egy úriember, mi az a viselkedés?
And ultimately it will come.
És végső soron ez majd jönni fog.
Sarvasya gunaharasata sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahagunan. So yes, if we advance in Krishna consciousness, these things should naturally manifest.
Igen, hogyha fejlődünk a Krishna tudatban, akkor ezek a dolgok természetes módon meg kellene, hogy
But it's
nyilvánuljanak.
helpful to know them before, because by neglecting them, we may end up committing offenses.
De hasznos, hogyha előre tudjuk őket, mert hogyha elhanyagoljuk őket, akkor lehet, hogy sértéseket követünk el.
Or in a more cultured environment, we may give Krishna consciousness a bad name.
Vagy egy kulturáltabb környezetben rossz fényt vethetünk a Krishna tudatra.
Prabhupada taught us some of these things.
Prabhupád néhány dolgot megtanított ezek közül.
You know, you don't eat with your left hand.
Nem eszel a bal kezeddel,
You eat in a very nice way.
nagyon szépen
By
eszel.
that I mean a sequential way.
Úgy értve, hogy milyen sorrendben.
How a devotee follows habits of cleanliness.
Hogy hogyan követi egy bakta a tisztaságnak a szokásait.
Just how they look.
Hogy néznek ki?
They wear tilak.
Tilakot hordanak.
So many aspects that good to collect and see whether we're actually following those things, and if not, then learn them and do them.
Sok ilyen aspektus van, amit érdemes összegyűjteni, megnézni, hogy követjük ezeket a dolgokat, és ha nem, akkor tanuljuk meg és csináljuk.
So, scholar, devotee, gentleman, all these three things are
Szóval
mentioned.
tudós, bakta és úriember, mindez a három dolog.
Raghupati Upajjhaya first offered his respects to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord gave him his blessing, saying, always stay in Krishna consciousness. Krishna Matir Rahu,
Krishna Matir Rahu.
not sometimes it's Astu,
Néha.
sometimes now it's Rahu.
Van, amikor azt mondanak, van, amikor most Rahut.
Rahu. May you have the protection of Krishna.
Hogy kapd meg Krishna védelmét, vagy itt úgy írja, hogy maradj örökké Krishna tudatos.
So he was, Raghupati Upajjhaya was very happy to hear this Krishna conscious blessings.
Raghupati Upajjhaya nagyon boldogan hallotta ezeket a Krishna tudatos áldásokat.
Offering obeisances, giving blessings.
Hódolat felajánlása és áldásadás.
I mean, you've heard me say this before. Children get up in the morning, the first thing they do is offer obeisances to their parents.
Hallottátok már ezt tőlem, hogy a gyerekek, ha fölkelnek rögtön, akkor a hódolatukat ajánlják a szüleiknek.
And the parents offer blessings.
És a szülők áldást adnak.
Gentlemanly behavior, culture.
Ez az úri emberek kulturált viselkedése.
When Raghupati Upajjhaya was requested to describe Krishna, he began to recite some verses he had personally composed about Krishna's pastimes. Hearing those verses, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Now in Puri, Lord Chaitanya doesn't hear anything from anybody that Swarup Damodar Gosvāmī has not approved of.
Puriban Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu semmit nem hall senkitől, amihez Swarup Damodar Gosvāmī nem járult hozzá.
Here, Swarup Damodar Gosvāmī is not here.
Itt most nincs ott Swarup Damodar Gosvāmī.
And Raghupati Upajjhaya just speaks, and when Lord Chaitanya hears, he becomes overwhelmed.
Raghupati Upajjhaya csak beszél, és amikor Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hallja, akkor elárasztja az
Shrutim mapare smritim mitare bharati manye bhajantu bhavabita ahamihanandam bande yasyalinde param brahma. Who knows the verse? 1, 2. It's in the prayer book. If you read the prayer book, it's in the prayer book.
Benne van az ima könyvben, hogyha olvassátok.
Raghupati Upajjhaya recited, those who are afraid of material existence worship Vedic literature. Some worship Smriti, the corollaries to Vedic literature. Others worship the Mahabharata. As far as I'm concerned, I worship Nandan Maharaj, the father of Krishna, in whose courtyard the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is playing. That's like such a wonderful verse.
Ez egy olyan csodálatos vers.
I worship the Father of God, whose courtyard Krishna is playing in the dirt.
Imádom Krishna apukáját, akinek az udvarán Krishna vagy Isten a földön játszik a porban.
When Raghupati Upajjhaya was requested by the Lord to recite more, he immediately offered his respects to the Lord and granted his request. So now he's saying another verse.
Most egy másik verset mond.
I don't know this verse. Kam prati kataitum mishesam pratikova pratitum ayatu gopati tanaya kunje gopa badhuti vitam brahma. It's a great verse.
Nagyon jó vers.
To whom can I speak? Who will believe me when I say that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is hunting the gopis in the bushes by the banks of the Jamuna? In this way, the Lord demonstrates his pastimes. You get this idea of, Krishna's with a gun looking for gopis.
Hogy azt vizualizálja az ember, hogy Krishna ott a bokrokban egy fegyverrel keresi a gópikat.
And Krishna's hunting for gopis. This is what God does.
Krishna gópikra vadászik, ezt csinálja Isten.
So here, this is all right. You do your study of scripture, but I'm praying to God, Krishna's Father, and here, who is that Krishna? Well, he's hunting gopis.
Először mondja, hogy te tanulmányozhatod az írásokat, de én Krishna apukájához imádkozom, és ki az a Krishna? Hát aki a gópikra vadászik.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu requested Raghupati Upadhyaya to continue speaking about the pastimes of Krishna. Thus the Lord was absorbed in ecstatic love, and his body and mind slackened. When Raghupati Upadhyaya saw Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms, he decided that the Lord was not a human being, but Krishna himself. So he was Vallabha Bhatta, when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy, he was amazed.
Vallabha Bhatta, amikor látta Chaitanya Mahaprabhu extázisát, akkor megdöbbent.
But he didn't come to the conclusion that he must be Krishna.
De nem jutott arra a végkövetkeztetésre, hogy ő biztos Krishna.
But Raghupati Upadhyaya, when he saw, he came to that conclusion.
De Raghupati Upadhyaya, amikor ő látta, ő erre a végkövetkeztetésre jutott.
It's very interesting that Vallabha Bhatta, he goes to Puri, he has so many things, and it's only when he sees Lord Chaitanya dance in Rath Yatra that he finally comes to the conclusion then that yes, he must be Krishna.
És érdekes, hogy Vallabha Bhatta elmegy Puriba, annyiszor látja az Úr Caitanyát, de csak amikor látja Rátha Játrán táncolni, akkor jut arra a végkövetkeztetésre, hogy ő Krishna.
Now, Lord Chaitanya is asking Raghupati Upadhyaya questions.
Most az Úr Caitanya kérdéseket tesz fel Raghupati Upadhyayának.
According to your decision, who's the foremost being? Who's the foremost being?
Ki a legfőbb lény?
Krishna. Okay. That I would assume everyone would answer.
Bízom benne, hogy mindenki tudja ezt.
Raghupati Upadhyaya replied, Lord Shyamasundar is the supreme form.
Raghupati Upadhyaya azt mondta, hogy az Úr Shyamasundar a legfelsőbb
Of course, there's lots of
forma.
Krishnas.
Mert persze sok Krishna van.
Of all Krishna's abodes, which do you think is the best?
Krishna hajlékai közül melyik a legjobbak?
Abodes, Krishna's abodes.
Krishna lakhelyei közül.
Raghupati Upadhyaya said, Madhupuri or Mathura Dham is certainly the best. That's Vrindavan.
Madhupuri vagy Mathura a legjobb, az Vrindavan.
Yeah. Prabhupada in the purport here makes this point that there are a lot of Krishnas. But
Prabhupada magyarázatban kihangsúlyozza, hogy sok Krishna van.
But he says, Krishna means Shyamasundar, who plays his flute.
De azt mondja, hogy Krishna az Shyamasundart jelenti, aki fuvolázik.
In Vrindavan.
Vrindavanban.
Of all forms, this form is the best of all.
Minden forma közül ez a legkiválóbb.
So we should be very clear that Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is, when we talk about Krishna, the original Krishna is the Krishna in Vrindavan.
Nagyon világosnak kell lenni, hogy Krisnastu Bhagavan Swayam, de amikor Krishnáról beszélünk, az eredeti Krishna, az Krishna Vrindavanban.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked, of the three ages of Krishna, known as childhood, boyhood, and fresh youth, which do you consider the best?
Krishna életkorai közül melyik a legjobb?
Raghupati Upadhyaya replied, fresh youth is the best age.
Az üde ifjúság a legjobb élet.
When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, among the mellows, which do you consider the best?
Melyik transzcendentális íz a legjobb?
Raghupati Upadhyaya replied, the mellow of conjugal love is supermost.
Szerelem íze a legjobb íz.
So we got everything right here.
Szóval itt minden jó.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, you have certainly given first-class conclusions. After saying this, he began to recite the full verse with faltering voice. Okay, here's another verse. I'm going to ask you whether you know it or not. Shyamameva param rupa puri madhu puri bara bayam kaishorya dhyaya adya eva parorasha. Who knows the verse?
Ki tudja a verset?
1, 2, 3, 4. The form of Shyamasundar is the supreme form. The city of Mathura is the supreme abode. Lord Krishna's fresh youth should always be meditated upon, and the mellow of conjugal love is the supreme mellow. Lord Chaitanya started dancing, singing this verse.
Az Úr Caitanya táncolni kezdett, és énekelni kezdte ezt a verset.
Getting allergy.
Kezd előjönni az allergiám.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Raghupati Upadhyaya in ecstatic love. Raghupati Upadhyaya was also overwhelmed by love, and he began to dance. Vallabha Bhattacharya was struck with wonder to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Raghupati Upadhyaya dance. He even brought forward his 2 sons and made them fall down at the Lord's lotus feet. Oh, yeah. Upon hearing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived, all the villagers went to see him. Simply by seeing him, they all became Krishna conscious. All the Brahmins of the village were anxious to extend invitations to the Lord, but Vallabha Bhattacharya forbade them to do so. Vallabha Bhatta then decided not to keep Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Adaila because the Lord had jumped into the river Jamuna in ecstatic love. Therefore, he decided to bring him to Prayāga. So interesting that he didn't keep him there with him. Vallabha Bhatta said, if anyone likes, he can go to Prayāga and extend invitation to the Lord. In this way, he took the Lord with him and departed for Prayāga. Vallabha Bhatta avoided the river Jamuna. Putting the Lord on a boat in the river Ganges, he went with him to Prayāga. So this is what I didn't understand.
Ezt nem értettem.
So here's the 2 boats, the 2 rivers.
Itt a 2 folyó.
As far as I understand, this is sort of like a, either it's a, I guess either it's some kind of, piece of land that comes out from one of them.
Van egy kis földterület, ami így kijön
Peninsula,
ebből.
excuse me. Either it's a peninsula
Félsziget.
or it's an island.
Vagy egy sziget.
So Lord Chaitanya's over here.
Vagy az Úr Caitanya itt van.
So this Adaila is over here.
Itt van ez az Adaila.
And now they're going this way.
És most erre mennek.
I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Nem értem, hogy ez hogy működik.
Anyway. So they went along the river Ganges.
Szóval a Ganges mentén mentek.
Due to great crowds in Prayāga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to a place called Dashashvamedha Ghat. It was there that the Lord instructed Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and empowered him in the philosophy of devotional service. So I will read this short purport.
Elolvasom ezt a rövid magyarázatot.
Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shruyate. The Lord has multipotencies which the Lord bestows on his fortunate devotees. The Lord has a special potency by which he spreads the Krishna consciousness movement. This is also explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartana. One cannot spread the holy name of Krishna without being specifically empowered by Lord Krishna. A devotee who receives this power from the Lord must be considered very fortunate. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading to enlighten people about their real positions, their original relationship with Krishna. One requires special power in order to be able to do this. People forget their relationship with Krishna and work under the spell of Maya, life after life, transmigrating from one body to another. This is the process of material existence. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna personally descends to teach people that their position in the material world is a mistaken one. The Lord again comes to as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to induce people to take to Krishna consciousness. The Lord also empowers a special devotee to teach people their constitutional position. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu taught Rūpa Gosvāmī the ultimate limit of the truth about Lord Krishna, the truth about devotional service, and the truth about transcendental mellows. This is a verse. Consummating in conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. Finally, he told Rūpa Gosvāmī about the ultimate conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Lord Chaitanya told these 5 things to Rūpa Gosvāmī.
Az Úr Caitanya ezt az 5 dolgot tanította Rūpa Gosvāminak.
Krishna tattva, bhakti tattva, rasa tattva, pranata, Shabasha Kaila Prabhu Bhagavata Siddhanta. The ultimate limit of truth about Krishna, the truth about devotional service, the truth about transcendental metals, conjugal love, and the ultimate conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Az igazság, ami az odaadó szolgálatról szól, a Ráda és Krishna szerelmében tetőző transzcendentális ízekre vonatkozó igazság, Srimad Bhagavatam, ja, ott volt Krishna, ez csak mi?
Srimad Bhagavatamnak a következménye.
Srimad Bhagavatam következménye.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu taught Rūpa Gosvāmī all the conclusions he had heard from Ramananda Roy and duly empowered him so that he could understand them. By entering the heart of Rūpa Gosvāmī, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all truths. He made him an experienced devotee whose decisions correctly agreed with the verdicts of the disciplic succession. Thus, Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī was personally empowered by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. In his book, Chaitanya Chandradoya, Kavi Karnapur, the son of Srivananda Sen, has elaborately described the meeting between Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's a few verses that glorify Rūpa Gosvāmī.
Van néhány vers, ami Rūpa Gosvāmit dicsőíti.
We will read those. I only know one of them. Kalena Vrindavana Keli Varta Luptetitam Kyapayitum Vishishya Kripamtane Abhi Bhi Si Cha Devas Tatraiva Rupam Cha Sanatanam Cha. It's obvious I don't know this one.
Nyilvánvaló, hogy ezt nem tudom.
In the course of time, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was almost lost. To enunciate explicitly those transcendental pastimes, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayāga empowered Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sanatana Goswami with the nectar of his mercy to carry out this work in Vrindavan. Here's another verse I don't know. Ya prageva priya guna ganar gadha badho pi mukto gehadya shadrasa iva paro murta evap amruta prema lapar dridhatara parisvanga rangai prayage tam shri rupam samam anupa menanu Jagrahadeva. From the very beginning, Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī was deeply attracted by the transcendental qualities of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he was permanently relieved from family life. Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and his younger brother Vallabha were blessed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, although the Lord was transcendently situated in his transcendental eternal form at Prayāga. He told Rūpa Gosvāmī about transcendental ecstatic love of Krishna. The Lord then embraced him very fondly and bestowed all his mercy upon him. Then here's one that I do know. It's a very, very lovely verse.
Itt van egy, amit tudok, ez egy nagyon szép vers.
Priya Swarupe, Dvaite Swarupe, Prema Swarupe, Sahajani Rupe, Nijani Rupe, Prabhu Eka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swabilasa Rupe. Indeed, Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī, whose dear friend was Swarup Damodar, was the exact replica of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He was very, very dear to the Lord, being the embodiment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love. So the embodiment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu extatikus szeretetének a megtestesülése.
Rūpa Gosvāmī was naturally very beautiful. He very carefully followed the principles enunciated by the Lord, and he was a competent person to explain properly the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expanded his mercy to Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī just so he could render service by writing transcendental literatures. Who knows this verse? Wow, look, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, 6, 5.5. Priya Swarupe, Dvaita Swarupe, Prema Swarupe, Sahajani Rupe, Nijani Rupe, Prabhureka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavilasa Rupe. It's just beautiful poetry. The characteristics of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī have thus been described in various places by the poet Kavi Karnapur. An account has also been given how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestows his causeless mercy upon Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī and Srila Sanatana Gosvāmī. Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī, Sanatana Gosvāmī were the objects of love and honor for all the great stalwart devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If someone returned to his country after, now he's sort of going ahead, all of a sudden they're in Vrindavan.
Hogy ő most arról beszél, hogy egy kicsit előre megy, hogyha valaki Vrindavanban jár.
If someone returned to his country after seeing Vrindavan, the associates of the Lord would ask him questions. They would ask those returning for Vrindavan, how are Rupa and Sanatana doing in Vrindavan? What are their activities in the renounced order? How do they manage to eat? These were the questions asked. The Lord's associates would ask, how is it that Rupa and Sanatana are engaging in devotional service 24 hours daily? At that time, the person who had returned from Vrindavan would praise Rūpa and Sanatana Gosvāmī. The brothers actually have no fixed residence. They reside beneath trees, one night under one tree and the next night under another. Prabhupada would quote that a lot.
Ez sokat idézte Prabhupád,
That they would just sleep under trees.
hogy fák alatt aludtak.
You can try sleeping under a tree. Just try sleeping outside even in this nice pleasant weather.
Csak próbáljatok meg kinn aludni még ebben a szép kellemes időben is.
It takes getting used to just being outside, and they would sleep on the ground.
Hozzá kell szokni, hogy kint vagyunk, és lent a földön aludtak.
Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī and Sanatana Gosvāmī beg a little food from the houses of the Brahmins. Giving up all kinds of material enjoyment, they only take some dry bread and fried chickpeas. So it's actually roti and chana.
Igazából rotit és csanát ír.
So dried bread, it wasn't that, they were having bread.
A száraz kenyér, ez nem olyan kenyér volt.
It was chapatis, roti. So they were eating roti and some chickpea sabji.
Roti és
or
csicseri borsót
or
szabcsi,
fried chickpeas,
vagy pedig sült csicseri borsó,
which they would then just chew.
amit csak elrákcsáltak.
They carry only water pots and they wear torn quilts. They always chant the holy names of Krishna and discuss his pastimes. In great jubilation, they also dance. This is Prabhupada's favorite word, jubilation.
Prabhupád nagyon szereti ezt a szót, hogy boldogságban, de
It's
jubilation.
anyway, but this is an archaic word. No one ever uses it anymore, unfortunately.
Ez egy ilyen archaikus szó, amit már soha senki nem használ sajnos.
They engage almost 24 hours daily in rendering service to the Lord. They usually sleep only an hour and a half. And some days when they continuously chant the Lord's holy name, they do not sleep at all. Prabhupada would say this is spiritual life, that you decrease your sleeping.
Prabhupád ezt szokta mondani, hogy ez a lelki élet, hogy csökkented az alvásodat.
I once overheard a conversation between an Ayurvedic doctor and a devotee.
Egyszer hallottam egy beszélgetést egy ajurvédikus orvos és egy bakta között,
And the doctor was saying that when you reach, he said you should sleep at least 6 hours a day.
és az orvos azt mondta, hogy legalább 6 órát aludj egy nap,
And when you reach 60, or 50, then for every 10 years you decrease by 1 hour.
és amikor eléred az 50 éves kort, akkor 10 évenként csökkentsd egy órával.
So that means, at 50 you start sleeping 5 hours.
50 évesen elkezdesz 5 órát aludni,
I mean, that's doable.
az még megcsinálható.
Then at 60 is 4 hours.
Na, 60 évesen 4 órát,
At 70 is 3 hours.
70 évesen 3 órát,
Well, I'm not sleeping 3 hours.
én nem 3 órát alszom.
I usually sleep 6.5, 7 hours.
Én általában 6,5-7 órát alszom.
So, it's supposed to happen, but I don't see it happening.
Ennek történnie kéne, de nem látom történni.
An hour and a half, and then even then, when you get too absorbed, then you forget that.
Másfél óra, de amikor túlságosan elmerülsz, akkor még azt is elfelejted.
That I have experience with. Especially in writing Navaraja Mahima, I used to write, and I used to write sometimes till Mangalartik. I was just so absorbed I couldn't give it up.
Arról van tapasztalatom, főleg amikor a Navavraja Mahimát írtam, akkor volt, hogy Mangaláratig írtam, nem tudtam befejezni.
Even now, sometimes that's why devotees are not getting podcasts every day.
Még most is van, hogy a bakták emiatt nem kapnak minden nap podcastot.
Because although I'm writing from 5 a.m. until 11:30 is when I'm supposed to be doing podcasts.
Bár 5 órától 11:30-ig írnék, amikor akkor csinálnám a podcastot.
So 11:30 is podcast, 12 o'clock is exercise, 12:30 is bathing, 1 o'clock is prasadam, 2 o'clock is taking rest.
Szóval, hogy 11:30-kor podcast, 12-kor torna, fél órával később fürdés, aztán ebéd, és utána pihennék.
So, but sometimes I just can't stop, and therefore I run into everything. I run into everything except bathing.
De van, hogy nem tudom abba hagyni, és akkor így minden elmarad, kivéve a fürdést.
So there's no podcast and there's no exercise.
Akkor nincs podcast és nincs torna.
Sometimes they write transcendental literature about devotional service. Sometimes they hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and spend their time thinking about the Lord. When the personal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear of the activities of Rūpa and Sanatana Gosvāmī, they would say, "What is wonderful for a person who has been granted the Lord's mercy? Chaitanyera kripayan hetan haki vishmay." Yeah, I mean, this is only possible. It's the only way I can conclude that it's possible is if someone gets some special mercy.
Ez a végkövetkeztetésem, hogy csak úgy lehetséges ez, ha valaki különleges kegyben részesül.
Now Prabhupada would say, well, that's not possible for us anymore.
Prabhupád azt szokta mondani, hogy hát ez számunkra már nem lehetséges.
And as empowered as Srila Prabhupada was, Prabhupada would sleep 4 hours, 3 hours, but never, he rested.
Akármilyen felhatalmazott volt is Srila Prabhupád, mindig aludt 3-4 órát,
Prabhupada would
pihent.
sleep 10 o'clock till midnight or 1 at the latest.
Prabhupád 10-től éjfélig aludt, vagy legkésőbb 1 óráig.
And then after lunch, he would also rest 45 minutes.
És ebéd után is pihent 45 percet.
I'm reading from the purport,
A magyarázatból olvasok.
130, text 132, second paragraph,
Második bekezdés.
and I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. This is about writing.
És olvassam.
It is certainly not good to write literature for money or reputation, but to write books and publish them for the enlightenment of the general populace is real service to the Lord. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's opinion, and he specifically told his disciples to write books. He actually preferred to publish books rather than establish temples. Temple construction is meant for the general populace and neophyte devotees. But the business of advanced and empowered devotees is to write books, publish them, and distribute them widely. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, distributing literature is like playing on a great mridanga. Consequently, we always request members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to publish as many books as possible and distribute them widely throughout the world. By thus following in the footsteps of Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī, one can become a Rupanuga devotee. Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī has personally spoken about the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his auspicious introduction to his book Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now I'm, in my writing I'm referring a lot to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but more to the sequel to that, which is Ujjvala Nilamani.
A könyvemben sokat utalok a Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhura, de még többet a folytatására, ami az Ujjvala Nilamani.
And they just, it's such detailed knowledge and it's really inconceivable. It's not possible unless someone is actually empowered.
Ez egy olyan részletes tudás, és igazából felfoghatatlan, gyakorlatilag lehetetlen, ha valaki nincs fölhatalmazva.
It's just superhuman. And you consider, we don't have somebody sitting in front of a computer, with access to multi-libraries on a folio.
Ez ilyen ember fölötti, és ugye nem az történt, hogy valaki ott ült egy számítógép előtt, és számtalan könyvtárhoz hozzáfért a fólión keresztül.
They're sitting under a tree.
Ők egy fa alatt ültek.
With palm leaves.
Pálmalevelekkel.
And he's writing on palm leaves.
És pálmalevelekre ír.
Who's seen the pictures Indradyumna Maharaj gave of Rūpa Gosvāmī's handwriting?
Ki látta azt a képet, amit Indradyumna Maharaj tett közzé Rūpa Gosvāmī kézírásával?
I mean, it's unbelievable how beautiful it is.
Hihetetlen.
Lord Caitanya said, like a string of pearls.
Még az Úr Caitanya is azt mondta, hogy olyan, mint egy gyöngysor.
So, yeah, it's under a tree, writing over there, palm leaves, and you're out in the open, and what do you have access to?
Ott ül egy fa alatt, pálmalevelekre ír, kint a szabadban, hát mihez fér hozzá?
This we read about in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that these acharyas, they had access, their minds had access to all kinds of literature.
De Brihad Bhagavatamritában olvashatunk arról, hogy az elméjük hozzáfért különféle írásokhoz.
When I was younger, I mean much younger, in even my pre-devotee days,
Amikor sokkal fiatalabb voltam, még mielőtt bakta lettem volna,
then there was a lot of talk about these Akashic records.
akkor sokat beszéltek ezekről az akásikus feljegyzésekről.
You hear about that?
Hallottatok
Okay.
erről?
This is like, Akash means ether.
Akás az azt jelenti, hogy éter,
So it means that somewhere up there in the ether, there's all this knowledge and vast libraries of books.
hogy valahol az éterben ott van ez a rengeteg tudás és könyvtárak, könyvtárai.
Now, I'm not talking about Akashic records,
Most én nem ezekről az akásikus
but
feljegyzésekről beszélek.
Rūpa Gosvāmī, Sanatana Gosvāmī, they had access to scriptures that are existent and scriptures that are non-existent without having to go to libraries.
De Rūpa Gosvāmī és Sanatana Gosvāmī hozzáfért létező és nem létező írásokhoz is, anélkül, hogy könyvtárba kellett volna
They
menniük.
didn't have to use folio.
Nem kellett a fóliót használniuk,
It was just all there,
minden csak ott volt.
or at least from here, they could access whatever they wanted. It was Lord Chaitanya's empowerment.
De legalábbis bármihez hozzá tudtak férni, amihez akartak. Ez volt az Úr Caitanya felhatalmazása.
Rūpa Gosvāmī says, although I'm the lowest of men and have no knowledge, the inspiration to write transcendental literature about devotional service has been mercifully bestowed upon me. Therefore, I'm offering my obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given me the chance to write these books. For 10 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Prayāga and instructed Rūpa Gosvāmī, empowering him with the necessary potency. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Rupa, please listen to me. It is not possible to describe devotional service completely. Therefore, I'm just trying to give you a synopsis of the symptoms of devotional service." And that's where we're going to just stop for a minute.
Itt megállunk egy percre,
And we have exactly 100 verses that we're not reading.
és van 100 vers, amit nem olvasunk el.
This is all about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to Rūpa Gosvāmī.
Ezek mind a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tanításai Rūpa Gosvāmīnak.
That's another topic,
Ez egy másik
and
téma.
that's why I didn't want to really get into it. We would just like, we'd be here with, number 60,
Addig 60. leckéig itt ülnénk akkor.
60th class, but actually this is not about Lord Chaitanya's travels, this is about Lord Chaitanya's teachings.
De ez nem az Úr Caitanya utazásairól szól, hanem a tanításairól.
So they're called Rupa Shiksha, Sanatan Shiksha, then Ramananda Samvad talks to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Prakashananda Saraswati. These are the 5 most important philosophical topics in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Ez az 5 legfontosabb filozófiai téma a Chaitanya Charitamritában,
Or rather, Lord Chaitanya's teachings.
vagyis az Úr Caitanya tanításai.
Then in the Adi Lila, you have for the first 5-6 chapters, 7 chapters, you really have a lot of other information there.
Aztán az Ádi Lila első 6-7 fejezetében is van egy csomó információ.
So Rūpa Gosvāmī is really taught the rasa.
Rūpa Gosvāmī megtanította a raszát.
No, nem tanította, he learned it. He was taught.
Megtanulta a raszát.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught him about rasa tattva.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tanította neki a rasa tatvát.
And then to Sanatana Gosvāmī, which we're also going to skip,
És Sanatana Gosvāmīnak, amit szintén át fogunk
which is
ugorni,
much more extensive.
ami még kiterjedtebb,
So that's hundreds of verses.
az több száz vers.
He teaches the whole process of devotional service, ado, shraddha, all the way to prema.
Megtanítja az odaadó szolgálat teljes folyamatát adósra, de egészen prémáig.
So he's talking about sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. Rūpa Gosvāmī is hearing about rasa.
Rūpa Gosvāmī a raszáról hall.
This Ramananda Samvad, discussions with Ramananda Roy, is very specific.
A Ramananda Samvad, Ramananda Royal való beszélgetések nagyon specifikusak.
And it actually goes beyond what he's going to be teaching here to Rūpa Gosvāmī.
És még azon is túlmegy, amit itt fog tanítani Rūpa Gosvāmīnak.
It's similarly in both Rasa Tattva as well as Radha Krishna, but it talks about Radharani.
Rasa Tattva, de azon belül Radharaniról beszél.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't do that.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ezt nem teszi.
So these are and then of course the other two are about the defeating Mayavad philosophy.
És aztán a másik kettő beszélgetés az a Mayavad filozófia legyőzéséről
So I have
szól.
jumped ahead to verse 236
Szóval előreugrottam a 236. versig,
or 235.
vagy 235-ig.
And there's one very wonderful verse here. Night before last, I quoted it to Shambhihari, and he started memorizing it right away.
Itt van egy nagyon csodálatos vers, amit tegnap előtt mondtam Shambhiharinak, és ő egyből elkezdte megtanulni.
Shambhihari is very learned. He does a lot of studying.
Shambhihari nagyon tanult, nagyon sokat
I
tanult.
wish all devotees read as much as he did.
Bárcsak az összes bakta olvasna annyit, mint ő.
Here at verse 235, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then says, I have simply given a general survey describing the mellows of devotional service. You can consider how to adjust and expand. So, very interesting bhavana. You can consider how to adjust and expand. Vishtara, expansion.
Ez érdekes, hogy azt mondja, hogy átgondolhatod, hogyan módosítsd és fejtsd ki. Ez a vistára azt jelenti, hogy kifejteni.
Then the verse which I was talking about is Bhavite bhavite Krishna spurate antare Krishna kripai agyapai rasa sindhu pari. Who knows the verse?
Ez a vers, ki tudja?
1, 2. That's the second one, Shambhihari. You may want to know that for every verse, practically speaking, that was Lila Sukha Prabhu, he's putting up his hand.
Ha tudni akarjátok, akkor Lila Sukha Prabhu gyakorlatilag minden versnél fölrakta a kezét.
And that's the way devotees should be.
És a baktáknak ilyennek kéne lenniük.
So, bhavite Krishna spurate antare. It also sounds very nice. Krishna kripai agyaipai rasa sindhu pari. When one thinks of Krishna constantly, love for him is manifest within the heart. Even though one may be ignorant, one can reach the shore of the ocean of transcendental love by Krishna's mercy. So, that's the hope for those who don't know verses.
Ez a remény azoknak, akik nem ismerik a verseket,
Is that if you constantly think of Krishna, even if you don't know a verse,
hogyha állandóan Krishnára gondolsz, még ha nem is tudsz egy verset,
then by Krishna's mercy, then you will actually get prema.
akkor Krishna kegyéből végül eléred a prémát.
The little detail is you have to constantly think about Krishna.
Az a pici, apró részlet, hogy folyamatosan Krishnára kell gondolni.
After saying this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī. The Lord then decided to go to the city of Benares, which is Varanasi. The next morning, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arose and prepared to leave for Varanasi, Srila Rūpa Gosvāmī made the following statement at the Lord's lotus feet. If you give me permission, I shall go with your Lordship. It is not possible for me to tolerate the waves of separation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, your duty is to carry out my order. You have come near Vrindavan, now you should go there. Now, Rūpa Gosvāmī had just come here from Ramakeli.
Rūpa Gosvāmī Ramakéliből jött ide,
So he'd gotten away from the Nawab.
megszabadult a navapból,
And he distributed his money.
kiosztotta a pénzét,
He left some money for Sanatana Goswami to bribe the jailkeeper.
ott hagyott némi pénzt Sanatana Gosvāminak, hogy lefizesse a börtönőrt,
And he and his brother came straight to Prayāga.
és ő és az öccse egyenesen Prajágba jöttek.
Lord Caitanya says, okay, Vrindavan's not far away, so you go there and do what I tell you.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu azt mondja, hogy de Vrindavan nincs messze, úgyhogy menj oda és csináld, amit
And
mondok.
this is a principle that Prabhupada constantly harped on, emphasized,
És ez egy olyan elv, amit Prabhupád folyamatosan hangsúlyozott,
that following the order of the spiritual master or Krishna is more important than associating with him.
hogy Krishna vagy a lelki tanítómester utasításait követni, az fontosabb, mint társulni vele.
Of course, he says, later you can go from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri through Bengal. There you will meet me again. After embracing Rūpa Gosvāmī, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu got into a boat. Okay, well, because this is all going downstream, going towards Jagannath Puri is going downstream.
Mivel ez, tehát hogyha Jagannath Puriba akar eljutni, akkor a folyó folyását kell követnie.
Rūpa Gosvāmī fainted and fell down on the spot. So Lord Caitanya does this sometimes, you know, when he leaves, he leaves.
Az Úr Caitanya ezt néha csinálja, hogy amikor elmegy, akkor elmegy.
And devotees may be crying, they may be fainting, he just goes.
És lehet, hogy a bakták sírnak, meg elájulnak, de ő csak megy.
The Brahmin from Deccan took Rūpa Gosvāmī to his home, and thereafter the two brothers departed for Vrindavan. After walking and walking, now Lord Chaitanya's gotten out of the boat,
Most
so
már
I don't know whether he crossed the river again to get to the direction of going into Puri, or whether he actually went downstream for a while before walking.
Az Úr Caitanya most már kiszállt a csónakból, nem tudom, hogy megint átkelte a folyón, vagy pedig egy darabig lefele hajózott, mielőtt újra sétálni kezdett.
Anyway, after walking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally arrived at Varanasi, where he met Chandrasekhar, who was coming out of the city. In a dream, Chandrasekhar had seen that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come to his home. Therefore, in the morning, Chandrasekhar went outside the city to receive the Lord. While Chandrasekhar was waiting outside the city, he suddenly saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrive, and he fell down at the Lord's feet. Being very happy, he took the Lord to his home. Tapa Mishra also heard news of the Lord's arrivals in Varanasi, and he went to Chandrasekhar's house to meet him. After talking, he invited the Lord to take lunch at his place. Tapa Mishra took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his house and gave him lunch. Chandrasekhar invited Balabhadra Bhattacharya to take lunch at his home. After offering lunch to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tapa Mishra begged a favor from the Lord and requested him to reward him mercy. Tapa Mishra said, "As long as your lordship stays in Varanasi, please do not accept an invitation from anyone but me." It was known to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he would remain there only 5 or 7 days. He would not accept any invitation that involved Mayavadi sannyasis. With this understanding, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed to accept lunch at the place of Tapa Mishra. He was the father of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. The Lord made his residence at the home of Chandrasekhar. So he lived at Chandrasekhar's and had lunch at Tapa Mishra's, and they're living very close together.
De Tapa Mishra, ő Raghunath Bhatta Gosvāmī apukája, és Chandrasekhar házában lakott, és Tapa Mishra házában ebédelt, ők közel laktak egymáshoz.
Shouldn't you lower the microphone and speak in the microphone instead of... Just pull it down. Just pull it a little. That's it. Yeah, just as you go around the Karut, there we have Chandrasekhar, Tapan Mishra, there's samadhis side by side.
Hogy itt, hogyha mentek a körúton, akkor Chandrasekharnak és Tapan Mishrának egymás mellett van a szamádia.
Hearing that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu had come, all the respectable members of the Brahmin and Kshatriya communities came to see him. Much mercy was thus bestowed upon Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī, and I have briefly described all those topics. Whoever hears this narration with faith and love certainly develops love of God at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Rūpa Raghunatha Pade Jara Ash Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rūpa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishna Das narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, 19th chapter, describing the Lord's instructions to Sri Rūpa Gosvāmī at Prayāga in the science of devotional service. Should be on the science of devotional service. Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bo. So next week we'll continue, and Lord Chaitanya's interaction with Sanatana Goswami.
Következő héten folytatjuk, és akkor fog találkozni Sanatana Goswāmīval Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
And then we'll see whether Lord Chaitanya makes it back to Puri. I think he will.
És meglátjuk, hogy eljut-e az Úr Caitanya Puriba, szerintem
And
el
there's
fog.
Sanatana Shiksha. Anyone who wants to really just read all those verses, then you'll be up on something which we're not going to do next week.
És a Sanatana Shiksát, hogyha valaki el akarja olvasni azokat a verseket, akkor ő tudni fog valamit, amit mi nem fogunk elolvasni.
Very,
jövő
very
héten.
wonderful. Probably the most relevant of all of those three devotional instructions, most relevant to sadhakas.
A szadakák számára ez a legrelevánsabb abból a 3 beszélgetésből vagy tanításból.
Okay, thank you everybody. Hare Krishna and Shri Shivara Shabasundar ki Jai. Krishna, 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 hey, Krishna. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Sri Shivara Shabasundar ki Jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bo. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai.